think it really brings society together in a way that is really novel for us. We're really not used to it. Am I speaking too fast?
A little bit.
Sorry.
That's okay. أهم شيء إنه كلهم الثلاثة اتفقوا على نفس الشيء، إنه الفلسطينية عندهم ضيافة حلوة كثير ودخلوكم في بيوتهم. وأكثر شيء الإنجليز اللي قالته هاريت هم أكثر ناس محافظين، مش عاطلين بس محافظين، بدخلوش الضيف من الباب. يعني بدك تعرف الواحد مدة طويلة حتى يعزمك على بيته. إحنا هون فلسطين بالعكس، أول شيء بنفكر فيه إنه نعزم الناس على بيوتنا ونستحيش في بيوتنا. كلهم قالوا أجمعوا كلهم الثلاثة إنه إحنا مضيافين، بس كمان بدهم يقولوا للشعب اللي بدهم يرجعوا له، عادة هو كيف بدهمش يوقفوا بالشارع ويصرخوا، بس عادة المدرسة بتقول لتلاميذها، اللي بالأوفيس اللي بتشتغل بالمكتب بتقول لجماعتها، اللي بتروح على الكنيسة بيقولوا للكنايس، جمعيات بيقولوا لجمعياتهم، لأنه الغرب شوي أكثر من الشرق بتدخل بالجمعيات وبالكنائس أكثر منا، يعني بتدخلوا بالمجتمع الصغير. بعدين في وحدة من الصبايا قالت إنه المجتمع الغربي فردي، إحنا individual they said. The Palestinians are like a small community، كأنه جمعية صغيرة، رغم إنه يعني في عنا كثير فروق، بس كلنا الكل بيشوفنا إنه مش متحدين، لا مضيافين، متحدين ما أظنش، بس مضيافين. اتحاد ما في، لو صرنا اتحاد ما صار اللي صار. يلا another question, go ahead. Sure, come on. Ladies, يلا. شو تستني أضع اسمك؟
My name is Rasha. Do you like our food? Is it better than your food?
Good. That's cool.
I think I'm going to speak for myself, but I'm sure that we'll all agree that the food here is really good, and I've put on lots of weight since I've been here.
Imagine. ونصحت كثير بهالبلد. Imagine كيف كانت قبل.
عندنا نصير فيه من الأكل. And it's quite different. And I oh no, this is really scary.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. يلا.
Don't be scared to ask questions.
No.
Because it's way more scary for us.
هم خايفين أكثر منكم.
The Palestinian food is really, really good, and it's quite different to what I eat in England, but I haven't found one thing that I don't like, which is a mushkila. It's a problem, because then I just eat and eat and eat.
I really like Palestinian food as well, I agree. It's really wonderful and fresh and homemade, and I love these dishes that take like 6 hours to make. It's just wonderful, and I love how everybody comes around the table and eats together from the same plate. It's amazing. One thing I do miss from the West, though, is that because in America we have many, many different cultures, and so when you go to a restaurant or you go eat this food, you eat food from China and Thailand and Mexico, from all countries of the world. So there's a lot more diversity of food there. And here the food is really wonderful, but after a while I can't eat any more hummus.
سيرا قالت إنه الأكل الفلسطيني كتير طيب بجنن، يعني كتير كويس، بس أكتر إشي بتشتاق في أمريكا إنه في مش الجامعة إلى حد ما، وبعدين الأكل المتنوع، لأنه ما تنسوش أمريكا وكندا وأوروبا كلهم عايشين على الثقافات المتعددة، إحنا ثقافة واحدة بس، يعني كلنا بناكل مسخن وكلنا ناكل المغربية هاي المفتول وكلنا بناكل كل إشي. بس بتروح على الريستورانت مثلا على المطعم بتلاقي نفس الأكل اللي بتاكله في البيوت، فيش تنويع، لأنه هي فاهمة ليش القصة، لأنه هي جاية على بلد ثقافة واحدة بس، يعني إحنا واحد. بس أنا معها كمان، أنا زي سيرا كمان بشتاق للأكل اكثر شيء السوشي، رح اموت على اكل الياباني ولا التلياني اللي بجنن، ولا الجبنه الحلوه اللي بتجنن هذه. والله I miss it, I really do. Pauline of course. Pauline من فرنسا، وفرنسا مشهورين بالجبنه كثير. تفضلي.
This is what I was gonna say. I really love Palestinian food, really, but as you may know, France is really known for its incredible variety of cheese. There's like hundreds of different kinds of cheese. So I like Palestinian cheese, but sometimes I'm missing my home cheese. So yeah.
It's like being a Palestinian in the States, or I guess, or in Canada. You always miss the مسخن. I love that مسخن when you're in Toronto, 20 degrees minus. But here you have no taste for مسخن because it's always available. It's true. يلا, another question. Go ahead. بدك. تفضل.
What do you think of boycotting the Israeli goods?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
What do you think of boycotting the Israeli goods?
What do you think of boycotting the Israeli goods?
In Palestine?
Oh, of course, in
Palestine?
Palestine. No, in Palestine. We're talking about here. It's a new phenomena, actually. It's not absorbed by the masses, by, you know. What do you think as Westerners living here, that you're very broad-minded and more experienced than our generation, your age?
I was just talking to a Palestinian friend last night about this, and I think it's really good. I think it's a really good movement for Palestinians, because for so long the power dynamics have been that Israel has lots of power and Palestine doesn't have very much power. So when they're negotiating, it's really difficult because Palestinians just end up losing so much. And so I think it's a way of changing the power dynamics for Palestinians to boycott Israeli goods and to say, no, we're not going to buy goods from the settlement. It's a strong statement. But the friend that I was talking to last night, she was really sad because her father just died 3 weeks ago, and he worked in a settlement, and all of her 3 brothers work in a settlement. And now, because of the ban on working in settlements, they can't support their family. And so she's incredibly worried that how her family is going to survive and how they're going to work. And she thinks that the Palestinian Authority should have tried to compensate the families or make sure there's other work before this ban goes into effect.
I think that the boycotting Israeli goods is really the only thing that we can do. I really do think that this is the one way that Palestinians can gain some kind of power, and it would actually, I mean, we say fish badil, but there really is badil. There really is a choice, and sometimes it's more expensive, and sometimes you have to walk to a different shop. But if we all stopped buying Israeli juice and Israeli crisps and things that we can live without, it would be a really big threat to Israel, and they would have to stand up and listen. And there was a report that wasn't very well published where a very high up person in Israel, I don't know who it was, said that the biggest threat to Israel would be if Palestinians and the wider international community, if they boycotted Israeli goods. It would be a really big threat. And Israel thinks that it would be a big threat. So, although it sometimes is hard and sometimes we feel like we're not making a difference, I really think that if each one of us, for example, if each one of us doesn't buy anything from Israel, or we try really hard, the shops will stop stocking the stuff from Israel. They only stock stuff that we buy. If we stop buying it, then they won't stock it, and they get it from somewhere else. And it would really change things. I think that there are so few options left for the Palestinians, because we've tried peaceful resistance for 62 years. There's been 2 intifadas, and what's happened? There's been no change. There's still occupation. So by boycotting Israeli goods, it's peaceful. We're not doing anything illegal. And the wider international community are really backing it. There's a lot of funding for it, and people I know my family and lots of people that I know in England, they never buy anything from Israel. And so,
thank you. Yes, Molly.
Yeah, well, what I wanted to add, because pretty much everything has been said already, was that according to me, it's like, of course, the first step is boycotting the Israeli product, because, well, when I got here, and like even from before, but it's kind of harder here, because there's so many Israeli products everywhere. It was like a necessity. I mean, it was like there was like no other option for me that not to buy Israeli products. But what I've been like facing, as Harriet said, it's like actually it's hard, because in every supermarket, every little mini market, everything is Israeli. And I think for me, this really makes me sad, because the thing is that I know that it's really hard for the Palestinian society to be so united, because people are tired, and especially being united behind this boycott thing, because as again Harriet said, a lot of people may think that it's unuseful because you don't see directly the consequences. But for me, what I think is really important, beside from boycotting, is like making people informed of the necessity of boycotting. And like, even though it's very small, trying to talk to the owner of the shop, you go every day and like tell him, well, you have corn, but you have 5 different kind of corn, but it's only Israeli. Why? There is also Palestinian corn. It's like just small details, and like make people aware and know, because the thing is that it's not only about us not buying Israeli products, it's also about owner of the shops not receiving Israeli products. So.
But there's, for example, sorry, really quickly, in Ramallah Tahta, where I work, there was a shop and it only sold milk from Israel. And every day we went and we said, oh, I really want milk, but I'm not going to buy it because it's from Israel. And now he doesn't have anything from any milk from Israel, and he just has local milk. Because there is local milk. They don't stock it because it's more expensive, but there is.
بس عشان اترجم صبايا انه اجمعوا الثلاثه كل وحده انه المقاطعه مهمه جدا. احنا مرات بنفتكر شو يعني انا بشتري وهذيك بتشتري، بهمش. كلنا لازم نجمع انه ما نشتري البضاعه الاسرائيليه، لانه اذا رحت على الدكان حتى لو كانش بس عنده بضاعه اسرائيليه، هو يعني اذا بس قلت له انا ما بدي اشتري البضاعه الاسرائيليه، اول يوم، ثاني يوم، ثالث يوم، رابع يوم، بالاخر خلص ببطل يجيب البضاعه الاسرائيليه. يعني we have to take it gradually. مزبوط احنا شوي متاخرين على الموضوع، بس it's never too late، فيش شيء متاخر، هذا واحد. ثاني شيء دائما اطلبوا البضاعه الفلسطينيه، لانه لها بديل، لها البديل الاسرائيلي. انتم بتفتكروا انه الحليب واللبن الاسرائيلي اذكى؟ لا، جربوا الجديد، جربوا مثلا تاع المشروع هذا اللي بيعملوا بريحه ممتاز، اللبن الجبنه. وبعدين هالشيبس، بلا هالشيبس اصلا مش منيح لصحتكم ولا لبشرتكم ولا لاسنانكم. بعرف الكل بحب البامبا، يا باي شو بكرهها البامبا. الكل بحب، بس في بديل إلها، يعني بلاش ناكل شيبس، بلاش اولادنا نعودهم على الشيبس. في اشياء بدنا نعود حالنا عليها. بعدين كمان الثلاثه ذكروا انه بعض من عائلاتهم حتى في مقاطعه برا، الناس الصاحيين والواعيين واللي عندهم ضمير واحساس، ومش لازم يكونوا عرب ولا لازم يكونوا فلسطينيين ولا لازم يكونوا مسلمين لحتى يحسوا بالقضيه الفلسطينيه. في كثير ناس من جهتنا احنا في بريطانيا، في امريكا، بفرنسا، بكندا، كثير. انا بتذكر ولا ممكن كنت اموت اكل تمر من بيسان، ابني يقول لي لا ممنوع، مره سرقت وحده واكلتها. بس يعني حتى تشوفوا انه الانسان ممكن، كل شيء ممكن، ما تفكروا انه الاشي الصغير، يعني احنا دائما بنقول هذه اشياء صغيره، لا مش تافهه نبدا. سيرا ذكرت قصه مع وحده امبارح حكت معها، قالت هي اخوتها وابوها بيشتغلوا بالمستوطنات الاسرائيليه، وهذا هو مدخولهم الوحيد. ابوهم مات، وهلا طبعا السلطه واحساسنا، مش لانه السلطه يعني احساسنا احنا بدهم يحطوا قوانين انه ممنوع الشغل بالمستوطنات. طبعا هو صعب على له بس مدخول واحد من المستوطنات. هم السلطه بتحاول تعطي التعويضات، يعني بديل، لهم اشغال، بس يكونوا هم من شوي صبورين، لانه روما ما انبنت بليله واحده، روما اخذت وقت كثير لتنبني، وإحنا بفلسطين لازم. We never give up. As we always said, we shouldn't ever give up at all. Okay? يلا، مين بتحب كمان تسأل؟ تفضل.
If you were Palestinian, would you boycott the Israeli goods?
They answered.
Well, I think according to what we've said before, we definitely would. So, yeah.
But it's interesting, when I first arrived here, I was boycotting Israeli goods. And I was working in a place with all Palestinians. And I was amazed how many of my colleagues were buying Israeli products. And why? They said, oh, the ice cream it tastes better, azka. Or the Israeli cheese, it just tastes better. And I was shocked. Like, for me, it doesn't matter if it tastes better. It's a much more important issue that we need to support Palestinian goods and boycott Israeli goods. But for them, it was like a... So I understand it partly because you need to live a good quality of life. You want to be happy. Sometimes you want just good ice cream, right? On the other hand, there are big political considerations, and I think you have to balance those.
أظني عندنا مثل بالعربي بيقولوا الجامع القريب ما بيشفي. دائما بكون جامع جنبنا بروحوش يصلوا، بروحوا لبلد ثاني عشان يصلوا، وهو الجامع جنبهم. بس هلا صار عندنا awareness، في كثير عندنا awareness. We do have lots of awareness. قبل كانوا ياخذوا الاشياء طبيعيه، يعني بهمش اسرائيلي ممكن هو الاسرائيلي اذكى لانه صنع امريكا، لانه بقلب امريكا بالضبط، يمكن يكون اذكى، بس هذا مش لصالحنا. يعني كل قطعه بتشتريها من اسرائيل كانك بتشتري سلاح تقتلي فيها ابن بلدك. Just think of it this way and you'll never eat it. It's like poison. أنا مين بتحب تسأل؟ تفضلي. Yeah, sure. Introduce your name.
My name is Salam. What is your advice to our Palestinian young generation?
Wow. شفتي هالحلوة محلاها؟ She could be very Anglo-Saxon, don't you think? Yeah, she could pass like an Anglo-Saxon. Would you like to take another question, combine them together?
Maybe could you be more specific too? What kind of advice and what area?
What kind of advice? إيش النصيحة بتحبيها هيك علنا ولا? I guess the kind of education or something. I don't know. How do you see it? I see it differently. How do you see it as a young generation? What do they lack? To be more motivated?
I think obviously, and we're all going to say this, I'm sure, and you're in a school, so, but the most important thing that we can do is to study really hard, go to university, get as many qualifications as we can, so that, inshallah, you're in a position to do something in the future. You understand?
Do we have to be highly educated to be good citizens?
Not at all. But I think that we have to be really aware of the situation here. And like with the boycott, it's so much more than it's not buying a juice or not buying an ice cream. And it will really, really make a massive difference to the Palestinian society. And I think if you as young Palestinians need to be aware of the political situation, because the political situation is life here. It shapes everyday life. It shapes whether you can go to Jerusalem or whether you can go to Nablus, you know, it changes everything. So it's really, obviously you want to have good quality of life, like Sarah said, but we need to be really aware of the situation and really embrace it, I think.
يعني المتعلمات دايما حياتهم بتكون إلها معنى ومغزى أحسن من البنات اللي مش متعلمات. وإحنا كنا أخذنا بالتربية، ما أنتم شاطرات بالمدارس، أخذنا بالتربية إنه الواحد اللي بيعلم بيعلم كل العيلة، لأنه الرجال بإحنا بظروفنا بمجتمعنا الرجل اللي بيجيب الفلوس مش المرأة، بس هلا تغيرت الحياة.
But and also on that topic, I really think that change will come to this country through the women. And that struck me when I arrived. The women here are really strong and powerful, and they hold all the cards in the family. Yeah, even the ones who stay at home, they run the whole house. They know everything. The women know everything. The men, not so much. I'm sorry. And if there's going to be peace here, it's going to be through women like you, I think.
Do you have the same impression, Pauline, about the Palestinian women, that they're strong?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I was actually thinking of what I was going to answer when Ariad says so.
Sure.
And what I really think that would be really important for this generation, like people from 18 to, I don't know, 30, like taking the generation in a larger sense, it's like to realize the importance of the role of the woman, both in the society in general, but also, as Ariad said, in the struggle against the Israeli occupation. And it's like really, really, really important to have a society which is balanced, where the man has like a role, but like the woman must you must realize how important you are in the society, in the way the country is ruled and everything. I mean, it's so important. But the most important thing to me is that it's never the men who are gonna tell you, okay, take some power, because being the dominant in this kind of struggle, they will not leave some power to give it to you. So the thing is that it's like it was the same thing in France and Europe in the 70s. I mean, the women just fought for their rights and everything. And I think it's really important that you realize that you have the power, if you are together, to reach this stage where you are as powerful as the men in the society.
Yeah. It's true, it's very true. شفتوا صبايا الثلاثة أجمعوا إنه العلم مهم جدا، بس كلهم أجمعوا إنه المرأة الفلسطينية مضبوط شجاعة وقوية، وهي التي تحكم البيت، حتى لو ما كانتش متعلمة، حتى اللي قاعدة في بيتها، حتى اللي ما بتشتغل. أنا هيك بحس. أنا لما جيت كمان تفاجأت. أنا بعرف من أمي 88 متحكمة بكل العيلة، وهم من واحد بالسعودية وواحد بالكويت وواحد، بس عارفة كيف يعني بتديرتهم. زي المديرة الكبيرة from far away on satellite هيك بقولوا. بالضبط كلهم أجمعوا إنه المرأة الفلسطينية قوية، ولكن القوة تأتي من العلم. كل ما تعلمنا كل ما صارت قوتنا أنجح وأفضل لأولادنا، لأنه إحنا بدنا نربي جيل كويس. هذا كل الأهمية، إنه نربي جيل كويس. Okay, who would like to speak?
Sorry, can I just add something?
Sure.
I think there's a myth in the West especially that if you have more education, it makes you a better person, or it makes you kind of kinder, or makes you smarter. And what I've seen is that that's not necessarily true, that some of the smartest people in the world are the ones who are planning wars, and the ones who are supporting Israel in their nuclear weapons program, and the ones who are committing vast human rights violations. So I think it's important to remember that just because somebody has a higher education and has a lot of money doesn't mean that they are a good person. And for me, one of my most important, I think, pieces of advice is that to be compassionate and try to understand where other people are coming from and the value of a human life before you judge, before you pull out a gun, before you try to, do something bad, I guess. Because it's one of the biggest problems I run into, both here and in America. In America, people think that there are stereotypes. Do you know the word stereotype? صورة نمطية.
يعني صورة نمطية، صورة غير صحيحة. تفكير إحنا ماخذين stereotype. stereotype بالنسبة للأمريكان والإنجليز، والأمريكان والإنجليز عندهم كمان stereotype عنا. بالضبط. إنه إحنا كنا معاقين متخلفين إلى حد ما، لأنه المرأة يمكن أغلبنا ما بتشتغل المرأة النساء ممكن.
Yeah, so what I find here is that a lot of people think that Americans are the enemy of Palestinians or the enemy of the Arabs, and they think that American women go around having sexual relations with every man they meet on the street. There's lots of stereotypes, and the same in America about Muslims and about Arabs and about the Palestinian community, that they think that we're backwards and that the Palestinians are backwards. And
you know, Sarah, it's very interesting. There is a girl who wants to ask you the same question.
Oh, yeah.
What did you think when what did you think of Muslim woman before you came here?
Before you came here, what did you think of a Muslim woman? That's right.
Well, okay, if I could just finish the other answer. And so I think you don't need high education or a PhD to be compassionate first before you judge someone and before you act. And you can do great things in this world without having a PhD. And I think that's one of the greatest strengths of the women here, that they don't necessarily have formal education, but they have incredible practical education that comes from their family and community and from raising children and living here.
شفت الواحد مش لازم يكون معه PhD حتى يكون واحد عنده عاطفة وقوة. والسيرة لاحظت إنه المرأة الفلسطينية حتى لو إنه معهاش PhD ولا معها MA، حتى كتير معهوش BA، بس في عندهم عقل وقوة وإرادة لتحسين المجتمع. في هون عندي سؤال.
My name is Aya. What did you come to Palestine?
Who's Aya?
When or why?
Why did you come to Palestine?
Why did you come to Palestine?
Well, I study Arabic at university, and I had to spend 1 year of my studies in an Arabic-speaking country, and everybody else went to Syria. But I really wanted to come to Palestine. It had been a dream to come here for a very long time. I think because when I started to read the newspapers and look at the news, I was very interested in what was going on here. And my father has always been very pro-Palestinian. And so I was brought up in a family where we talked about Israel-Palestine a lot. And that's why I came. And to see how the situation was actually here. Because we see pictures on the news and we read stories every day, but there's nothing like actual experience to teach you what it's really like.
هاريت قالت إنه أجت على فلسطين لأنه هي بتدرس عربي بالجامعة، وصفها حوالي 13 أو 14، كلهم راحوا على سوريا، هي الوحيدة لفلسطين. هوري زحفولها. Now it's your Sarah. Why did you come to Palestine?
I also was studying Arabic, but I was studying it in Syria, and then I got a job offer here. And when you're studying Arabic, no matter where you're studying it, Palestine pulls you. If you read the newspapers, you're reading about Palestine. If you read the literature, you're reading about Palestine. And so it was always my dream to come here as well and to see what it's like on the ground. I think the other thing, though, is that September 11th was really important in the West. In terms of, well, for many reasons, but also it inspired a lot of young people to want to learn Arabic and to want to understand the culture and the politics better. So that, I think that was, when I went to Syria, there were many, many foreigners learning Arabic there and curious to learn about Palestine, to understand where 9/11 came from and how it happened.
Thank you. Sarah كمان قالت هي تعلمت عربي بسوريا بالأول. بس طول حلمها كان دائما تيجي على فلسطين. We have to clap for that. Hooray! يلا. It's Pauline, all the way from France. Why Palestine?
Well, pretty much for the same reason. I mean, I've started learning Arabic because I've been traveling a lot in the area with my parents, and then I went to study in Cairo, and although I was already really interested by Palestine, I came all the time when I had holidays. I crossed from Cairo through Taba a lot and coming back to Palestine. And even though it was a long trip, I did it like 3 or 4 times during my stay in Egypt, and I felt so fine here. Like, you know, it was. Well, I'm not from here, but somehow I'm feeling home now here, and I don't know if we can really explain why we're here. I think it's just like, plus I've been, learning international law, so.
Could we say love from the first time?
Yeah, I think you could.
Pauline درست عربي في مصر، وكانت هي برحلتها مع أهلها مرات يجوا على فلسطين عن طريق طابة ويجوا على فلسطين. سألتها، هي بتقول وقت بغرام فلسطين، هذا الرحلة. كمان نسقف لنا Pauline. Thank you. Yalla, who's going to ask? You did? Sure. Go ahead. Oh, sure.
My name is Christine. I always hated English and Americans because they side with Israel. How do you change my mind?
Wow. You're trapped. You're trapped, ladies. You're trapped. Wow. صبايا سألت إنه طول عمرها بتكره الإنجليز والأمريكان لأنهم بوقفوا مع إسرائيل. طبعاً لما بتقولي هيك يعني I'm sorry أنا I laughed بس لا this is not the way to laugh. عادة لما بنقول بنكرهش الناس، بنكره السياسة. الناس مش أحلى منهم وين ما كان، بس إحنا بنكره السياسة. عاد سألتها قالت لها أنا بكره الأمريكان والإنجليز، كيف بتغيري لي نظرتي؟ We have one English, one American. The French we put them aside. No, just joking. يلا تفضل. أمريكان يلا.
You're partly right. I do think it's important to some degree, to distinguish between the people and the government, because the government policy has its own force and power, and I can write letters to my senator and I can try to influence U.S. foreign policy, but there's a long history to why the United States supports Israel. And it's important to understand that. It's important to read history and to understand why Israel is important in the United States. On the other hand, it's important to understand that America is not one thing, like a ball rolling or something. It's a country with 300 million people. And that means there's lots of different opinions and there are lots of different people. There are many, many Palestinians in America. There are many Arabs. There are many Muslims. And there are many people who don't support Israel, partly because of the boycott campaign and partly because they understand what's going on. And so wherever you find Americans who support Israel, you also find many who don't and who are really trying hard to fight on behalf of Palestine. And so I think it's important to understand the diversity within America and to try to support those aspects and to understand those aspects that are with Palestine and that can be a valuable ally for you.
Yeah, and I suppose it's the same in Britain, and I really do understand why.
Why Balfour? The Balfour
Declaration.
That's all, my goodness.
I personally didn't write the Balfour Declaration. I mean,
of course.
Yeah. And I am really, really sorry for everything that's happened, and I end up saying أنا من بريطانيا أنا أسفة, and I always say the same thing. But just like we don't assume that all Palestinians are terrorists, you must assume that not all of us are Zionists. And it's the same in Britain. We have people from all over the world. I think there are more Muslims in Britain than in any other European country. There are Muslims from all over the world, Arabs from all over the world. Miss America was of Lebanese origin, probably Palestinian actually.
No. She's from the south, Shiite. And the problem is that Israel said she belongs to Hezbollah, and she has no clue about the politics, no clue whatsoever.
The wonderful thing is that we all have these stereotypes, and when you meet people, you realize that these stereotypes are just completely worthless. And so hopefully, if you speak to us and we speak to you, then we get to know each other better, and we realize that actually we're just people. It's never the people, it's the governments.
Absolutely.
And policies, unfortunately.
Well, the French were not angel either. They destroyed Algiers too. كانوا بالجزائر وحرقوا نفسهم. And without that, that's haram. Pauline is a very nice, and she's an excellent cook, by the way. Yalla, come on, Pauline.
Once again, there is not much to be added because I think it's really important to separate politics and the society, even though, of course, it is the society that is electing the government. So, of course, there is a link. But I think what Harriet just said, and it's what's really important to me, is dialogue, is talking to each other. It reminds me of a documentary I saw yesterday that you may have known about. It's called Promises.
Oh.
And it's about children in East Jerusalem, like Palestinian and Israeli meeting. And it's kind of sad because in the end, they don't really end up friends. But what's important is always to talk to each other, because when you don't know who is the other one in front of you, you're just like afraid and you build like wrong ideas and everything. So what's important is to talk to each other, to realize that there is a lot of people defending Palestinian in France, in England, in America, a lot. Unfortunately, this is not the thing that we hear most, because what we hear is politics and everything. But there is like a strong support of Palestinian society within our respective countries and all over the world, of course. But,
Thank you. It's true. في كل أنحاء العالم، خاصة بفرنسا وأمريكا وإنجلترا، في كثير ناس مع الفلسطينيين سياسيا اجتماعيا، وبيكتبوا عنا كثير، بس نسمعش فيهم كثير لأنه أقلية، والأكثرية بنسمع دائما الشيء الخاطئ. بس بولين شددت على لازم يكون في حوار dialogue between two people who misunderstand each other. Like today, look at the dialogue, beautiful dialogue. We gained 3 good friends, beautiful friends, and you gained, I'm sure, 60 or 55 friends too, including me and Amjad. Okay, who would like to answer? Yalla, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Shireen. When do you leave home when you are 18 and live by yourself?
Why do you leave home? When you're 18. Why do you leave home when you're 18? Because here, suppose even if you stay 40, I'm married. Once you get married, you get out of your parents' house. You know, why in the West you leave when you're 18? You have the freedom to leave when you're 18. Why?
It definitely didn't used to be like that. I was talking to my grandmother when I was in England last time, and she got married when she was 18. And I said, wow, because I'm 21, I said, wow, you would have had a baby by now. And she said, but Harriet, I just really wanted to get out of the house. And the only way she could leave home was to get married. And that was 2 generations ago. So I think, and often, I think that's still the case, you know, sometimes. But we have a really strong culture in England, and I think in America as well, and in France as well, of going away to university. So it's quite rare that somebody would choose to stay in their hometown to study. Even if that's the best university, often people don't want to go to the one. So they go, I chose a university that was deliberately far away from my family.
I think the point you make about marriage is important. There are many Palestinian women who marry at age 18, and so they end up leaving their homes as well. They just go to their husbands rather than to university. Whereas in America, we emphasize, there's a lot more, again, the individualist society. Things have changed so that we encourage people to get educated and for women to go out and get jobs. And the most important thing is not the family and having children. And there are advantages and disadvantages to that. I know when I went to university when I was 18, I was sad. I was homesick. Like I was excited. I was excited to study with a group of people who were my age and to really focus on university. But I really missed my family, and it took me a long time to get over that. So there's something that's a little bit still strange about it, about moving that far away and trying to live life on your own. But it was also, I became really strong. I learned how to live on my own. I learned to take care of myself. And I value that too.
Yeah, what I wanted to say is that according to me, linked to what I've said before about, for me, woman independence and woman role in the society, I think it's a very important step for especially girls to have something between like childhood with the parents and adult life with husband and children and everything. I think it's really important to have this part of your life where you learn about yourself, and that the most important thing is that you know you can take care of yourself alone. So it's just give you a very important strength, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, strength, you understand? Like
قوة.
yeah.
يعني الثلاثة أجمعوا إنه لما الوحدة تطلع، لما السؤال كان ليش تطلعوا أنتوا سن 18؟ هاريت قالت إنه ستها طلعت من 18 راحت تجوزت عشان تطلع من البيت. ما هو مرات الأهل بتحكموا، لا غلط. وأظن في حالات كثير زينا بفلسطين نفس الشيء، البنت بتطلع تتجوز 17 18 لأنه بدها تطلع من نيرون، يمكن الأب ويمكن الأخ ويمكن العم، يمكن كبر العيلة، يمكن الحياة الاجتماعية السياسية، يعني كل واحد له مجتمع. أنا بقولها لأمي دائما ليش جوزتيني 18 وأنا شاطرة وأجتني سكولرشيب أروح على أمريكا؟ بتقول لي ما أنتوا ستة في الدار. إذا أنت ما رحتيش شغل، إذا أنت بتعرف بالزمان القديم إذا ما تجوزتش الكبيرة ولا حدا بتجوز بعدها. بدها تستنوا الكبيرة لتروح لتيجي الصغيرة، يعني بجوزوش الصغيرة، لأنه إذا تجوزت الصغيرة قبل الكبيرة، الكبيرة بتروح عليها، ما حدش بيجي بيطلبها. أكيد لسه هلا هيك؟ طب هلا على زمان قبل 40 سنة. معناته احنا ما مشينا لسه لقدام، لسه احنا لورا. بيمشي تتجوز الصغيرة قبل الكبيرة بصير على زماني ما كانش عادي ابدا. عشان هيك زحوني 18 عشان يخلوا المجال اخواتي. شفتوا؟ نفس الشيء بولين قالت انه بتربى شخصيتك شيء، لانه الغرب بتقبل تعيشي لحالك، كمان ما تنسوش في فرق بين المجتمع الشرقي والمجتمع الغربي. يعني عندنا المجتمع الشرقي صعب البنت تفتح ابارتمنت لحالها، بس انتوا عمالكم بتلاحظوا انه البنات من قلقيلة بيجوا من جنين ومن تولكان بيجوا على الله يشتغلوا، انتوا ساكنين لحالهم. شفتوا كيف المجتمع بطبيعته تغير. بس وحده ساكنه بالقريه اللي هون جنبنا في سوريك ولا في بيتونيا ولا في قطنة ولا في وين ما كان، ليش بدها تسكن لحالها؟ ما هي بعيدة عن بلدها قديش؟ 15 دقيقة، نص ساعة بس بنات قلقيلة فاتحين قاعدين لحالهم. معناته المجتمع بتطور وبتغير، الحياة الاقتصادية هي اللي بتساعد. هلا المرأة ليش بتشتغل؟ عشان تجيب مدخول أكثر، عشان الأولاد يعيشوا أحسن، كلنا نعيش أحسن. في أوروبا قبلنا، شفتوا؟ قدموا قدامنا، عشان هيك بتلاقي البنات اجوا على فلسطين، كم وحده منكم اهاليكم بخليكم تروحوا تعيشوا بفرنسا تقعدوا سنه؟ صح، مجتمعنا مش لانه انتم خلطوهم من صح، لا، المجتمع بيختلف، الحاجات بتختلف. شكرا. يلا، who has another question? Go ahead. Sure. Go ahead. يلا انت. شو سألتي؟ لا. سألتي؟ لا.
Do you have to get married to have children in your country?
صحيح كثير. I like that.
These questions are amazing. They're really good.
Exactly. فهمتوا ايش السؤال؟ لازم تتجوزي حتى تجيبي اولاد. في الغرب تنسوش الشرق يختلف عن الغرب، مش معناته حدا احسن من حدا. We have all different opinions, but that's a very good question. You have to get married to get children? Come on, ladies.
Well, you don't have to be married to have children in any of our countries. I mean, the society changed a lot during the 30 last years, and now people, I mean, depends. It's not general because there is like still religious people, but mainly you can be with someone and have children and not be married. What usually happens is that some people can also be together for like a little bit, have children and then get married, because in the end, even though religion is not that important, well, especially in France, I think it's a little bit different from England and America, but in France, the religion is not that important anymore. There's a lot of people not religious. But still, the marriage is something important, so people often get married, but sometimes they have children before to get married. But there's also people getting married and then having children. I mean, there is like a lot of options, but the thing is the society is open enough to make people choose the way they want to have children, married or not married. And,
I think especially for people who aren't particularly religious, they love each other and they have a house and they have a car and they have children. I think there are lots of people like that in England, and they're not married because it's expensive to get married, and they have everything they want, and they have their life. That's certainly not everybody, and there are definitely economic benefits of getting married, because even though a lot of people in England are not very, very Christian or very religious, the law still helps you if you're married. So if you are married, then you get more benefits from the government and things like this. So there are lots of reasons that people are or aren't married. It's quite complex.
I would say there are two more cases that don't happen as much here that I want to talk a little bit about. One is that it happens more often where we have single parents in the United States, either because they were with somebody and then they got pregnant and then they separated, and so now they're raising a child alone. And then, so there's a lot of struggle to support single parents. It's difficult to raise a child on your own. At the same time that we don't want to say that everybody should be married, that you know, it's the most, like, here I noticed that one of the most important things is you have to get married, you have to get married. People hear that I'm 30 years old and they say, why aren't you married? You're too old. You know, and for me it's sort of, there's so much pressure just to get married that I want to focus on other aspects of my life, and it's difficult to explain that here. So in the United States and in the West, there's more cases of single people having children. You don't have to be married in order to have a life with children. And then the other aspect, there's this big struggle in the United States right now about gay marriage, about lesbians, about two women being together and two men being together. And they might have a wonderful family. They have a loving relationship, they've been together for years, they've adopted children, but they're legally not allowed to be married. And so part of the struggle now is to support people who have children and want to be married, and have children and don't want to be married. So marriage is a really complex issue, because sometimes it's about choice, and it's also about equal rights for everybody, at least in the United States.
Thank you. بس عشان شوي هيك نفسر، كل وحدة كان لها رأي، يعني في عندهم رأي مختلف ورأي أجمعوا عليه كمان. الإجماع عليه كله أحيانا الدين في كل أنحاء العالم، كان مسلم ولا مسيحي ولا بوذي ولا يهودي ولا كل شيء، دائما العائلة مهمة جدا، والرجل والمرأة والأولاد مهمين جدا. هذا كثير كويس، وهو يعني كويس كثير خاصة بس المجتمع الغربي إلى حد ما علماني، يعني الدين والدولة يختلف، يعني القانون والدين يختلف. هلا اللي بيكون متدين كثير لازم الزواج يكون بين المرأة والرجل والأولاد، بس إذا في جماعات مش متدينة، وكثيرا في الغرب مش في جماعات غير متدينة أبدا، مرات زي ما قالت هاريت في بريطانيا، مرات للحياة الاقتصادية بتجوزوش لأنه غالية الحياة. واحد بده يشتري بيت وسيارة وأولاد وكل الدنيا كبيرة عليه، حزينها. إحنا دائما بشفع على رجالنا وقت العرس، والرجال بدفع كل شيء، مشحر هالرجال، كيف بده يتجوز؟ بده يتداين يعني عشان يتجوز، وياما ناس بروحوا على البنك وبتداينوا. شفت الغرب إلى حد ما واعي أكثر اقتصاديا. بعدين حقوق المرأة بالطلاق، لأنه بصير عندهم طلاق زي ما بصير عندنا. طلاق عندهم which is good for the women، كويس، إنه نص كل ما يملك الرجل والمرأة المرأة بتاخده. عشان هيك الرجال بقول أحسن ما اتجوزش ولا أطلق، ولا يروح نص اللي أنا بشتغله. يعني في ظروف اجتماعية ودينية واقتصادية تؤثر على الغرب أكثر مما إحنا بنتأثر عليه. بس في سؤال هذا حلو كثير كمان.
My name is Asma. Is religion important in your life?
Religion, is it important in your life? In our life, it is very important here in the East, especially in Palestine, definitely all over the Arab world. بس إحنا بفلسطين الدين كثير مهم عندنا. Is it important? As individual, you don't have to say much.
To speak just for myself, I don't have religion, so I cannot really answer the question because France has a very secular tradition, and it's like the religion is not that important really. So there's a lot of people like me who have parents who got baptized and who had a religion but who were not really religious, and who chose not to baptize their children in order to make them choose later if they want to believe in one religion or another. So the thing is that today I don't have religion, so I can totally understand what I think what religion represents for a lot of people. But for me, it's not. I cannot say it's not important, but being not religious makes the religion not a big part in my life.
Yeah, I agree. I'm also not religious, but I respect religion. So I think it's important to, just because someone is not religious doesn't mean that they don't have ethics and morals and think about justice and compassion and how to live a good life and how to be good to other people. And the opposite is true too. Just because someone is religious doesn't mean that they're a good person. And so I personally, my grandfather was Christian, but I don't go to church at all.
I'm really sorry. I also am not particularly religious. My grandparents were, and this is what Sarah was saying, that their son died, and they said that the church treated them so badly, and they realized then that good people are not necessarily religious. You can be a good person and be religious, you can be a bad person and be religious, and there are good people and bad people in every society, in every country, and in every religion. And so I was always brought up that we respect other religions, and we always go to church at Christmas because it's kind of a tradition. And I used to sing in a cathedral choir. Do you know what a cathedral is? It's like a really big church. And I used to go to church 4 times a week, which is quite a lot. I know you pray 5 times a day, so it's probably more. But and so I've been brought up taking part in a lot of religious activities. But still, for me, the most important thing is if somebody is a good person, if they have morals, if they know the difference between good and bad. And that's not necessarily to do with religion. It could be, but it couldn't.
Thank you. هذا الفرق بين الشرق والغرب، شوفوا في كثير فرق بيننا وبين الشرق، معناته مش احنا احسن ولا هم من اعقل، ولا هم من احسن ولا احنا اعقل، بس في فرق كبير. زي في كاتب امريكي ولا انجليزي؟ توين English, right? American? Sorry, okay. شاعر أمريكي قال أن الشرق شرق والغرب غرب ولا يتفقان ولا عمرهم يلتقيان. ما عمرهم بيلتقوا، أنا دائما بقول التقوا في هونغ كونغ بس بصير يضحكوا علي. ولا عمرهم بيلتقوا، مش حدا أحسن، زي خط متوازي. بالضبط لما يلتقي الخط المتوازي بتروح قيمته. خط متوازي. عشان هيك الصبايا هون الحلوات الشاطرات المتعلمات اللي بجننوا كلهم قالوا ما عندهم دين، بس مش معناته لما ما يكونش عندك دين معناته انت امرأة ما عندك اخلاق ولا عندك رؤية في الحياة الكويسة. وهم اجمعوا وانا بكون معهم انه مش كل واحد عنده دين بكون كويس. ياما بنشوف ناس بتصلي وبتصوم والله يستر، وناس لا بتصلي ولا بتصوم وبتعمل وبتخاف الله. عشان هيك رجعنا نقول الشرق شرق والغرب غرب.
But can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I think when we all do this, we don't know what human nature is. We don't know what is natural. And all of religion and the way that we see the world is from our culture and from our society. And so we're really not so different. People from all over the world, we're all people, and there are good people and bad people, and I really do think that we're not so different. And yes, we have different religions and we eat different foods, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings and we all have feelings. And so yeah, the culture might be a million miles away, but we as people, we're all the same. Like, even if we're different color, or I wear a hijab, or I don't, or I don't get married.
يعني الإنسان البشر كلنا بشر، كان هو أبيض أسود، بيلبس حجاب، بروح على الكنيسة، بروح على الجامع، بيصلي ما بيصليش، بصوم بصومش، كلنا آخر النهار كلنا بشر. Since you're talking about passion and love, my dear, we have a question here. Yeah.
Out loud.
Do you have to love the man you want to marry?
Wow. Do you have to love the man you want to marry? لازم تحب الرجال اللي بتاخديه ولا احنا زينا يما؟ نشوف الواحد بقولوا لنا هذا إلك مناسب بقول لهم اوكي. So, how about we take 2-3 questions almost related? Is that okay? Somebody else would like to ask you another question.
Do you have Arab friends before you came here?
Did you have Arab friends before you came here? وين في الله هذه؟ يلا.
Would you marry a Palestinian man?
كله عن الحب يما والزواج لأنه الموضة عنا نحب ونتجوز. يلا. Read it.
My name is Nida. Weddings here are expensive man pays for the wedding. How pays for your weddings in your country?
It seems weddings here are very expensive. Poor man, he has to pay for a wedding. Some parents ask for kilos of gold for a dowry to get married. I hope they won't divorce after that. But weddings are very expensive here. The man pays for the wedding. Who pays for your wedding in the West? Anybody else has a question? It's your chance. It's your chance. Anybody? Yeah? Go ahead.
We like to watch TV out, of course, the Turkish series. How about the young generation in your country?
That's cool. I like that.
In your country, we Palestinians, they watch the television. Because actually this is the only outlet for our young generation. Watch television. But now I'm hooked on the Turkish series. قلوب منسية. I'm hooked on it too. It's beautiful. And we are hooked on series. What do young generation in your country, how do they spend their time? Usually our age, their age, of course. Yeah, you have so many important questions. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, well, the two questions about marriage. In our country, you choose, well, most of the time, you choose the person you're gonna marry if you marry him. So of course it's the person you love. So could we marry Palestinian? I think if you love a Palestinian, yes, you can. Well, of course there might be like difficulties sometimes because it's not always easy, I think, to marry someone from other culture. But if you really love him, I think it doesn't matter. So you can marry Palestinian, Chinese, whatever. If you love him, I think this is the most important thing. And about
the wedding.
The wedding.
Oh, who pays? Well, I don't know. I never went to a wedding in my life, so I don't even know who pays. But I think.
But suppose you got married. Suppose you got married. What are the plans usually between a man and a woman?
Well, I think it's like the costs are shared by both the families from the wife and the man. So probably the family of the woman will pay for the dress, and in the end they share everything. But mostly it's the parents who pay because the two person might not have the money to pay. But they might enter like more correctly because I really don't know. And about what people our age do like to do in our country, I think they also love to watch TV, really, and to spend a lot of time on internet and Facebook now and everything that you may know. So, well, this is also, it makes me think of what Harriet say, is like no matter our religion and everything, like people, I don't know how old you are, but if you are maybe between 18 and 25, you take someone, okay, a girl, Palestinian girl, 20 years old, a French girl, 20 years old, an American, an English girl, 20 years old. They have a lot in common. Spending time on Facebook, talking to their friends on the phone, thinking about clothes and things like this. I mean, yeah, we're sharing much more than many people want us to think, because the society, the whole world society, is trying to divide people, and it's important to realize that we share much more. And this is a good question, because it's important to realize that we do the same thing. We don't watch the same movies, we don't watch the same shows, but yeah, we spend hours on television too. So
same people are the same all over the world. يعني وين ما رحتوا نفس الشيء. البنت بنت والصبية صبية. بس كيف؟ Maybe we'll do it secretly here. Facebook and chatting. Maybe. Yes, Sarah, please.
The question about love and whether you love somebody that you marry. It's really interesting because I think in the West we have a very romantic idea of love. Like the person that you marry, they should share your soul. You should be soulmates. And so that means that we have many, like we date more often. I'll have a boyfriend or multiple boyfriends before I find somebody that I think, oh yes, this person shares my soul and we can get married. And then we also have a lot of divorces because people are disappointed. They say, oh, he wasn't my soulmate, because there are problems in the marriage. But here, it seems that marriage is much more of an economic and social and practical issue. It's about who's going to be your partner in raising children and establishing a house. And I've met many Palestinian women who get married to men that they don't know very well or they don't necessarily love, but they say love will come. You know, we'll start a family together and love will come. And in my mind, I think that's more practical, I think, than in the West, which is, and a lot of people in the West are starting to wonder about this too. It's just a much more practical view of what a partner is and how you raise a family together. I mean, I like the romantic love thing, but it's a little bit idealistic.
I guess you're right, you know, because romance, it depends. How do you see romance?
But I think also we've got really different ideas about love.